Okay, I'm gonna put my view on also. Okay, and it is great to have Julia. Julia, we have known each other for a long time. It's been 15 years since I taught you for the first time in eighth grade.
This
So
is
yeah, so it's been great. And we've stayed in touch ever since. You were just at our house for Shabbat, so that was great. A very eventful Shabbat, which we're not going to talk about why on this, but we're going to discuss the Torah portion of this week, which is Haazinu, which is probably I would say the most difficult of all the Torah portions. It is just one long poem. There's no story. There's no. It's very very difficult. Very very difficult. So brave Julia has come on to discuss it, and where Julia has, in our pre-discussions, chosen to talk about the first part, the very first pasuk, which says "Haazinu hashamayim v'dabeira v'sishma aretz imrifi," which is that the skies will listen, and the commentators point out that this is stressing the importance of paying attention. That it's really poetic, talking about how that if we follow the Torah, then the skies will be our witness and the ground will be our witness because they are the ones to carry out the punishments against us. Our
mm,
fields don't grow. At the same time, they're also the ones to provide our reward, right? The rain comes from the sky and the earth produces agriculture, and then we have wealth. We're well fed, and we really have everything that we need. So that's why it's them that's paying attention in a figurative sense, obviously not in a literal sense, and the idea of us paying attention, which extends far past just the figurative and poetic ideas of the sky and the ground, being the vehicles for our punishment and reward. So, Julia, tell me, why do you think that paying attention is so important?
in general or in the
In
Torah?
general, like extending this idea of paying attention past the figurative direct point, but more homiletically, what's a lesson that we learn from this?
I think paying attention means that you're a good listener. And I think being a good listener gets you very far in life because people feel valued when you can speak back to them things that they said to you. So it helps you in interpersonal relations between you and other people, and then it also can help you just an intrapersonal relationship. I'm assuming I think that's what it is, where it's with yourself.
Okay.
Because if you pay attention, then you probably ask less questions and you're a little bit more self-sufficient as a human being. If you're paying attention to what they say when you get on a plane about, an emergency landing, then at least you know what to do versus being like, oh, I never listened to any of those.
Right, yeah, and there's people that teach us those
Aggressive.
lessons, right? So yeah, so that's interesting that you say that. It's funny because I just flew with my son and it was his first time flying since he was 5. He's 16 now, so he doesn't remember flying, and he's never had the experience of flying. So watching somebody fly for the first time is fascinating. It's essentially the first time he's been on a plane plenty of times, but he was under 5. But what was amazing about it, and why I'm bringing it up, is because he paid so much attention to the safety presentation. And
Hmm.
I turned to him and it was hilarious because nobody's paying attention. Like the whole plane is ignoring the stewardess at the front and the video that they're showing. And I turned to him, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "What do you mean? This is important. Like this is the safety stuff. Like if something goes wrong, we got to hear it
Hmm.
because that makes sense. Like if you went on a roller coaster for the first time and they gave you safety instructions, you would pay attention, right? While
Totally.
a person that's been on 100 times would never pay attention, and nobody pays attention on the flights because we've all been on flights. But paying attention can save you. But I really love the point that you brought up about listening to other people. I think that is it's such a difficult quality to have in life. Why do you think it's so difficult for people and like so easy for you?
So easy for me. I never
I'm
implied that.
assuming, right?
Um, why? I think people, when others are talking, are very concerned about either other things. And so they're not paying attention because they are focused on just a completely other topic, or they are thinking of what they're going to respond, which I think is like the most common one. And you don't make enough space in your brain to be listening and to be also preparing to respond. I would assume.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Why do you think that people are spending that brain power on thinking about what their next response should be as opposed to paying attention to what they're hearing?
I think the average person, I mean, this is a generalization, but the average person is very concerned about how they will be perceived.
Yeah, interesting. So, and what's ironic, I think, is that they'll be perceived better if
If they
they
listen.
if they listen, right? Because the other people,
Totally.
right? And that'll be even if they have no like catchy thing to say back or smart response, but just merely respond with, "Let me make sure I understand what you're saying." That will make them look so much better than anything they
Yeah.
could possibly say, right?
Yeah. I think people really appreciate when people like listen and they don't have to repeat themselves or not repeat themselves, but like when you ask thoughtful questions, um, that like clearly you were really listening because then you were able to come up with follow-up questions. You're not asking like for a clarification. You're like diving into the next phase of that thought or concept.
Interesting. Okay. Very good. I think that you see that in a teaching of Chazal and Pirkei Avos, where they say that you should never interrupt somebody. That's like a sign of a fool. And I think that you're talking about paying attention to somebody and thinking about the next thought. But the worst thing that you could do, even worse than ignoring the person or thinking about being distracted, is interrupting them in the middle.
Totally.
Because right, that shows that you're really do not care about what somebody's saying. Yeah.
Hmm. I
Right.
think
So
it comes off as disrespectful.
yeah. Yeah, you're getting tremendously disrespectful. So you can have the most respect you could show to somebody is by listening to what they're saying, and then as you're saying, take their thought to the next level by asking a question about what they're saying, but not just to repeat yourself, but to make sure that you understood it and then take it to the next level. Then there's a level of disrespect where you're not really paying attention to them. You're just, as they're talking, you're thinking about what you're going to say next.
Hmm.
And then there's the real disrespect, which is interrupting them and
Hmm.
saying something, worse. Okay. I like that.
Hmm.
That's a good lesson from this week's Torah portion of the importance of paying attention and how it is not just between us and God and paying attention to what God tells us, but to paying attention to other people and seeing
Hmm.
what they say and really listening to them and making them feel that you care about what they say as a sign of respect.
Hmm. I would agree. Yeah, I think it's a big deal. I think it's also when people are like, I'm really bad with names, I'm really bad with faces. Oh, like I always wonder, like, is that really like the case, or are you just not paying attention when you meet
Ooh,
people?
that hurts so much because I have that. I have such a huge problem. I teach, and I always like chalk it up to I speak to over 10,000 people a year. So like to
Right.
be expected to, but then like there's obviously people you're not going to forget. If I walk into the White House and somebody introduces themselves, I'm not going to forget that person's name because it would be so disrespectful to do that. Right? You would never
Right.
like you're going to remember that person's name. So when you see somebody and you didn't bother to put that much care and attention into learning their name. So that I guess you're right. That does show that like, look, it might make
So
sense
less
that you
important
don't.
to you.
Right. Right. You're like saying that.
Good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yikes, that hurts. Okay. Right. No, there, whenever you learn about something that like you have a serious flaw in, and like you're like, okay, you got to admit that you have that flaw. But it's hard. It's
So
difficult
true.
right. Okay. Well, Julia, thank you very much. That was a wonderful lesson together,
Thank you, Rabbi.
and I appreciate that we put the time. This was difficult for us to find the time to get together, and I was extremely disrespectful by canceling, and then you had we had another cancellation, and now we finally got it done. So thank you very very much.
BH. Thank you, Rabbi.